All right, thanks for staying with us. 17 aspirants had paid about 40 million each to participate in the primaries, but two, Cosmos Maduka, former lawmaker, and Wachuku Anzirike, I think he's a US-based medical doctor, was disqualified by the screening committee headed by the former Senate President David Mark, while the vice presidential candidate of the party at 2019 election, Peter Obi, on Tuesday, of course, I had mentioned, had pulled out of his membership from the APC, while Atiku emerged victorious. Some of our own candidates, from across different parties. We had Devoe Revival, we had Milola, our very own Milola, there was Honorable Shino Pella, which other one can I remember now? I think even Banky W, Tola Oshika, a few of them like that, that we had really high prospects for. They were not successful, right, under their own primaries. I mean, across different, some were running for Senate, governorship, and all of that, right? They were not successful. So we are asking tonight, right, just looking at the analysis of what happened during all those primaries, what lessons have we learned, and and how is this going to impact, right, the overall general elections and the 2023 elections? All right, so let me come to you quickly, ladies, and I'll bring Devoe in. What do you think? Because I mean, when Milola did her video, when she eventually did not secure her ticket, I listened to her video and I felt like this is actually true, it's apt, right? Do we truly deserve the kind of leaders that we have, because it seems like, we are not even very clear. Before, I didn't understand what delegation was until after these elections, when I realized that actually, so your fate can be in the hands of a lot of people.
Now that means you're getting to the right place. You're supposed to understand this before we become the delegate.
Become the delegate, right? So it made me a bit worried that, wow. So if person head no correct and the person then be the delegate, it means that the whole thing, it will be skewed, right? But let me hear your thoughts quickly before I bring in the
money. Why me? I just think that the whole primaries just exposed the level of corruption in Nigeria. Yeah, I think it exposed everything, and it's very saddening at the rate at which we are even glorifying everything that has happened. Like I said earlier, we're laughing about it. These are people that are stealing our futures. Since when we were in primary school, secondary school, we started hearing that we are the leaders of tomorrow. Which tomorrow?
Tomorrow now.
We are already
tomorrow.
Close to, I wanted to say close to 50s, but no, what I'm trying to say is time is running out. We're laughing, we're making jokes, and they're stealing. And then the authorities that are supposed to be in charge of this whole process, nobody's doing anything about it. So what are we going to talk about? You're talking about lessons. What lessons are we learning? We make the same mistakes every 3 years, every 4 years,
or let's say every 8 years.
You understand? We are recycling bad leaders. For a person to come out and think he has to bring a Ghana must go of dollars, some other people are giving away cars. It just means you don't even know yourself. You can't stand for anything. Why do you need to bribe anybody to take a position?
That's my point.
Why do you need it so badly? Now you are telling us, I'm going to fix security, I'm going to fix this. Don't tell us what you are going to do. Tell us how you are going to do what you are going to do. You can't tell me you are going to come and fix security. How? Biko, how? So if you ask me question, I'm just going to be angry here. So let's leave it to LC. I'm just here to watch the show too.
So thankfully, I'm at a point where I don't have any space for anger, because I have realized that if I want to live long in this country, we have to look for a way to just make ourselves. And, just calm down and learn lessons if we're ready to learn. I like what she said, like, we're not learning. This happened 8 years ago. It will happen, hopefully not in the next, in fact, it will happen in the next 8 years, right? We'll be here again.
Yeah.
And for me, the primaries, I like that we're having like a wholesome conversation. And I remember, I know I've said this on the show, maybe I've written it on my blog, where I said something about if there's ever going to be a change, you need an angel and a devil. It has to be someone who can get into that place, play the dirty game, and then still be able to change things. Yeah. It's not going to be a saint, right? For me, the most outstanding thing, because nothing surprised me, absolutely nothing surprised me, the interesting thing for me is just seeing how new crop of people, even in this whole drama. Even in, we can still categorize them as bad leaders, maybe, but new crop of people are coming into this game and doing something. Absolutely. Case in point is PDP's presidential election, and we saw, was it Tamboa who stepped down for Atiku, and then Atiku had the highest number of votes, followed by Wike. And for me, Wike's progress to that point was interesting, because this is the first time he's running on that scale, and I said something on Twitter and people were just misconstruing it. Sorry, I'm taking your time. But it's a case of, this is what it is now, right? The game is the game. If you're going to get in, you will play that game to get into that point. I am not saying that it is the right thing that is happening. Yeah. But it's just like you enter into a game.
So you think that it is okay for you to bribe your way, but you then get there, you change it.
I'm not saying we will change it for you people who get me right. I'm saying that you get into a game, you know the rules of the game, you're saying, oh, this game is wrong, this game is foul. Those who play by the game will still get the reward that comes with winning that game. And you will keep being on the sidelines and crying, which is why I said, if we are going to ever get leadership in this country right, the person has to be the devil and the angel and find a solution. That's what I'm just observing and seeing the landscape changing. And again, you see that voting for the general elections, it's in our hands.
It's not in our hands, end of trust me.
No,
with these primaries, never.
It's the primaries, but the delegates are not going to vote for you at general election. Are they going to vote?
It's not in our hands.
There are already options. So.
It's actually very sad. Devoe Okorie is a public analyst, affairs analyst, who constantly lends his voice on radio every morning on issues that, as it appears on the front pages of our newspaper. And he does many other things, but he's also a friend of the house. Thank you so much, Devoe, for coming tonight.
Oh, boy.
You are absolutely welcome.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Dorian. So, Devoe, this is actually interesting, because when Elsie is saying that Wike made it this far, I'm thinking, didn't somebody accuse him of spending 30 billion of his state funds to get to where he got to? So, tell us, what do you make of the just concluded primaries across parties? I mean, we're still the one that is still pending. The biggest one is the presidential primaries, right, for APC. So that's the only one that is pending. But I mean, so far we've had some good numbers of primaries that has taken place. Let me hear your thoughts.
Okay, it's interesting hearing y'all speak, because this is how most Nigerians have been speaking recently, and both good and bad. I love the fact that there's a lot of excitement in the air. For the first time, people are talking, both physically and online. And I don't like the fact that sometimes the wrong narrative is being painted, like what you just tried to do now.
How is it the wrong narrative?
No, when I say wrong, in the sense that this game, let me put it this way. We get the same results because we keep doing the same thing. Okay. One. And the problem is that to a large extent, or the major proportion of Nigerian people do not understand what is happening. They're observers. So at the end of the day, they keep seeing it and they keep wondering what's going on.
Absolutely.
So the bulk of what we're going to discuss now is the magic that happens with delegates, the role they play, and why does it happen that way. But we will come to an understanding, right? Politics is a game, okay? And by the definition of a game is a sport, so we're meant to have fun. That's the first part. Secondly, every game has rules. And the rules of this game is not to cheat, which is what people think is the apparent thing. Yeah. The rules of the game are laid down. Now, how you pass the ball is your business. Okay. And that is why, for example, taking the PDP, for example, Wike came into the game at a very late hour. Remember, it wasn't his intention. At some point, something snapped in his head and he said, I will take this, give me the power. And at that point, remember, they were waiting for their party to zone it, and the party didn't zone it. And it angered a lot of them that how are they going to do this when it's our turn? We've been playing this game all the while. Then it comes to our turn, you change the rules. Now, also, another thing that sparked in him was, at the end of the day, was it always about the interest of the masses?
Never. Of course not.
And
what we saw.
And when it snapped in him, he said, I can do this also. Maybe I have some of the tools that these people that's needed. So you see, now because of this game, you must also understand the, let's call it the mantra of politics. Politics is not about logic. Most times people try 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. No, in politics, 1 plus 1 is 11.
Can be 1 billion.
Yes, which is why people most times are confused as to what is going on. But it's not that difficult. Now, let me just break down a bit. Now, leaders are produced, that's within the Nigerian setting. We have a democracy, a federal system. You have the federal, which produces the president. You have the states, the 36 governors plus the FCT, and then you have the 774 local governments. These are the platforms that the Nigerian system works under. If you want to have any influence or rule, you must go through a political party. That is the rule for Nigeria. So it does not come by talking on social media. It does not come by making a fuss on TV. You must join a party. That's the first rule. That's where Nigerians miss it.
Absolutely.
Okay? So literally, you are watching those who have become the actors, the operators, do their thing. And instead of doing yours, you keep complaining at what they do. Now, when you join a political party, there's a process which has been agreed by INEC as to how leaders are produced, okay? Now, this takes place every 4-year cycles because of what we have agreed in Nigeria. And this process for parties requires a primary. And we lose sight of this primary and only remember it at the point of election. But the truth is, this is a game that is played. Now, many people have lost faith in the process because, as you can see, the shenanigans that have taken place, some parties have proven not to be based on integrity, not to be based on
what is best for the people.
Best for the people or agreement of the party. Why? Because INEC, well, let me not say INEC, the electoral law amended that's Buhari passed gave room for 3 levels of electing party officials. 1, the direct primary. 2, the indirect primary. 3, consensus. You have to understand what this is and why the delegates become so important at the end of the day. And for a long time within the country, the delegate system, which is the indirect primary system, was what held sway because it literally was being coordinated or influenced by the all-knowing and all-powerful governors. So for a long time, and the delegates are appointed before now, because they just made an amendment. I'll get to that shortly. Before now, the delegates comprised of the statutory delegates, which was the current serving public officials from that party, whether you're the president or the vice president, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, the National Assembly, all the members of your party within the National Assembly, that's the senators and the representatives. You come to the state, you have the governor, you have the commissioners, you have the
local government chairman,
the
House of
Rep, State Assembly members, and then the Ward Council members. All these people comprised of the
delegates,
the statutory delegates. So they were called super delegates. They had automatic roles. They knew they would be voting whenever it came to a primary election, be it at the state level or at the federal level. Then you have the ad hoc delegates. Those were the delegates that were appointed within some form of internal democracy by the party for the elections. And before now, you had about, I think, now, okay, before I call numbers, these delegates come from the states, okay, and the local governments, right? Now, recently, with the Electoral Act that was amended, the president, or let me not call it the president, the House of Assembly did not recognize the super delegates, the statutory delegates. And this came to fore just recently because if they went by what they had passed, all the statutory delegates that were the bulk of the delegates would not have been part of the votes. And that's why there was a quick push to get the president to sign, but the president withheld his signature. And some people debate why he did that. Was that in the interest of the party? Was that in the interest of the Nigerian masses? Or was that in the interest of getting some people out? But at the end of the day, he withheld it. So what it meant was all of a sudden, which some politicians have agreed to, they didn't have to cater to the bulk of delegates 5,000, 4,000 delegates that they usually
would. So it means that Ghana must go would have been like 50 times what
yes,
we saw.
50 times more. Now you can begin to see where the bulk of this funding comes from. Now what happens, right, is that, okay, let me give you some numbers now. For the APC currently, with the bulk of the superdelegates out of the way, you have 232,000 ad hoc delegates. That's 3 per local government that will be represented. PDP had about 810, 1 per local government that will be represented. Now, if you take an example for the APC, 1,200 came from the north and about 1,068 came from the south. Now, this is very important because we will get to it where the delegates play their game and why they are so important and why, literally, if you ask a small child, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a party delegate. It's literally a career objective because of how much power you wield. Now, these delegates, remember, they come from the local governments. Like I said, leaders are produced from parties. And sometimes you hear people shouting, oh, our constitution is the problem, our federalism, restructuring. I want to point out where the root of this problem lies. Now, because these delegates come from the local governments, right? So it means that within the federal system, we have 6 geopolitical zones. The Northwest has 121 delegates. The North Central has another 121. The Northeast has 112. The Southwest has 137. The South-South has 123. And the least go to the Southeast with 96. So like I said, a total 127, 1,257 from the north and 1,068 from the south. So on just count alone, if any block unifies, they literally will win produce whatever.
Okay,
so and that's why you see all these games being played out.
Hey, stay with us.
Yes, we're getting there. You have to understand this.
I understand.
So when they play them, yes,
that's why I'm telling Elsie that at the polling unit, it's already too late. So, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're analyzing the just concluded party primaries with Devoe Okorie. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. Okay, so, ladies, there's so much questions to ask. But I already see where the problem is. So my question is, I don't even know where to start with this thing. How then do we start to get the right delegates in these primaries? Because they play the most crucial role in who eventually emerges as, So because now we have delegates that it is based on the highest bidder. Whoever pays highest, that's who they would eventually go and print for. I mean, the story that Elsie took, right? You could even see those ones were not even, but they didn't bother to write. It was somebody that was writing it on their behalf.
Yes,
so
but I'll say something to that. It depends on how the politics you play. Because some believe that it's all about the money. No, it's not always about the money. Now, like I said, there are rules to every game. Politics is a game, meaning, let me put it this way, politics is like football. How you pass the ball determines whether you're going to score or not. Do you have a proper midfielder? Do you have someone who is a proper striker? How you play your game matters. Now remember, some people play their game on account of religion.
Yes, sentiments.
I wanted to say initially that outside politics being a game and that politics is not logic, I'll repeat this 3 times so that it goes into Nigerians' ears. Politics is a game of consensus and numbers. Politics is a game of consensus and numbers. Politics is a game of consensus
and that consensus, you always find numbers. It in the northern region, and you see the numbers there as well.
Now, you see, consensus means I might bring competence to the game. I don't know anybody. So if I need the three of you on my side, what do I have to do? I have to come and negotiate with you. What do you like? What do you want? What do you like? What do you want? Do you want your trip to Maldives? Or do you want that new car you're thinking about? If that's what appeals to you. Because if I don't get you on my side,
You can't get it.
I can't win. Consensus. Now, when you get the consensus, you build your numbers. That's what you see, the actions that take place. How you do that defines how you're going to win, which was why you saw many of the southern delegates begin to move around the country to win their primaries.
Absolutely.
Now, remember, at the time that they were screening zoning, that's what the zoning is also another factor. Now, it was the PDP that enshrined zoning, not the APC. Remember, it was also a gentleman agreement, and at some point it was written down. But can we say this? PDP is just one party, even though they ruled for 16 months, 16 years. We had other parties who didn't have zoning as part of their party architecture. So you don't have to play it the way the PDP or the APC plays it. You can look for other people who maybe you think alike, and that's why I said, how do you play your politics? In Nigeria, even though we don't like to push those sides, but religion is one of our most heated points of debate, and it's also a major fault line. But the truth is, religion unifies Nigerians.
Yeah.
So when people say that religious people should stay out of politics, wrong move. Wrong move. Because the politicians know this, which is why what happens every 4 years? They start to visit mosques and churches.
They'll go and lay their hands and their legs on them.
But you see, we don't play that way, but we should. After religion, ethnicity or tribalism is one of the next second most heated points of connect within this country. And they say, oh, no, don't talk about it. No, do talk about it, because it may just work for you. As you saw in the PDP primary, someone who had said, no, I don't want consensus. No, please, let everybody come out there. Right in your front, he came out in Tambowal, gave up the seats for Atiku, and urged his followers to go in one direction. Do you think that was at a loss to him?
Nope.
So how do you play your politics? Who do you have on your team? Thirdly, this is where most of us have been looking forward to: social status and budgeting, funding. You see, when the delegates go for the primary convention, right, what happens is that the aspirants are expected to court their buy-in. How you court? I mean, three of you are ladies here. I'm sure men have come to you in different ways. Some have brought their English to you.
There are some that speak our language.
There's some speak your language, yes. So can you speak the language of the delegates? Now, what appeals to your delegates? Do they appeal to your vision? Or do they want you to come and tell them how you intend to make Nigerian security safe? Or are they willing to listen to how, and that's where you start hearing, or are they just pecuniary in the sense that, are you taking me out for lunch or dinner? Are you, etc. And across the years, we have seen this cashing out didn't start today. It started a long time ago with the military. And if you remember, I think during the Obasanjo regime, there was a time during the National Assembly, what was his name? Not Nuhuri Badu. The then Gali Umanaba brought out Garamas Goes on the assembly floor and said, well, they brought this for us to induce us. Inducement has always been part of the process. The degree is what has changed
And the
with time.
impunity.
Yes.
Brazen in your face.
So now the brazenness is not even in your face. The brazenness is a case of where you have, like in the case of the former VP's son, when he gave out 2 million to his own state delegates to become the gubernatorial aspirants. He asked for it back in public and said,
so
I want my money.
Return
my 2 million.
And when they returned it, he went back on social media and said, they have returned it. Problem.
Okay.
So,
you know what? I don't want this to look like, oh, okay, so we're just having like a long conversation.
yes.
But at the same time, I mean, I said something initially and you said, oh, it was a wrong narrative. But everything you have said now just goes to say that politics is a game. And there are different ways to win,
Yes.
which you have rightly established. Whether you are going to negotiate properly or you're taking them for lunch, at least that's the best way to put it, right? It is a game and you have to play it properly. And if you look at what has happened so far, it is plain to say those who have won right now are those who have played the game and played it right.
Yes.
Right. And all I was trying to point out is that I can see clearly how this guy was close in his own game playing, regardless of what everybody has thought about him.
Okay.
However, to take this conversation forward, if we're going to get delegating right, because I think that, like you said, a lot of conversation we've had on this show and other platforms too that are having this conversation is making us aware of these things. Where do we start from as a people? Because this has happened. We are not going to be able to make any difference for APC, whatever they're going to choose, whether it's direct, indirect, consensus. We cannot do anything right now. But where do we start from?
Okay. Now, that takes me to answering what I actually mentioned was the wrong narrative. You see, because the two major parties have played such a invasive role in our lives, okay? PDP, APC, they stand like big elephants. But remember, these parties, how many people in these political parties at the end of the day? We're 200 million. And if you check the history, you mentioned voter apathy the other day. Nigerians literally have lost hope in the electoral process because with each administration, Nigeria gets worse. But the point is, it is not true that that is the only way the game can be played. Recently, a major aspirant of the PDP, Peter Obi, left because he felt maybe he didn't have
he's now
high
the presidential
chances.
candidate for the
And
Labour Party.
he, in his history, people had said, oh, he wasn't ready to share money, right? Now, is it true that all Nigerians only want money to do what is right? Is it true? Because there are two phases to this. Remember, the party primary produces the aspirants, the candidates which we will all now vote from. However, it's not just PDP and APC that exist. You have about 40 parties on the INEC register that will be on the ballot. Now, how come Nigerians, other Nigerians who don't believe in this kind of Jankara and dollar-rated politics have not come together to be able to produce a party of like minds, okay, who can also sit together and say, hey, let's play our politics differently. Now, I will almost tell you that in this last election, it wasn't always about money. In some cases, some people, not just money, there was a lot of corrupt politics that came out, even in their own way of playing. Now, if this is not done, and this is where the difference is made, people say, does Peter Obi have a path to winning? Well, the truth is, it's left to...
It's in the hands of Nigerians.
Yes. Before it gets to the hands of Nigerians, the first leg is in the hands of the party. Is the party going to join with other like-minded parties? If they're not going to join on the like-mindedness of maybe we come from the same region, can they say that let's be that alternative or third force to the two major parties who seem to be the same? And remember, you have to have presence in about 75%, that's 3/4 of Nigeria. So how was the APC formed? How was the PDP defeated? The CPC, that was from the north, paired up with the ACN, that was from the southwest, paired up with I think
CPC,
there was one party from
ACN,
the southeast, and they became a larger party. And then a big chunk of people left the PDP and joined the APC at that point. And that's how they won. It's the same thing that's going to happen if we're going to topple the APC. And you don't always have to start at the presidential level. You can start by making the difference at the local government, making the difference at the state level. Already, I think from what I gathered, 14 senators and about 23 House of Rep members were toppled in this current primaries. So it's not true that some people hold sway and that they cannot be moved. They can be moved. To what level, like I said, how are you going to play your football? Maybe the alternative force has the youths in mind. At the time NSARD started, right, how many people knew that that tidal wave was coming? If you remember, because people tend to forget how it started, I think something happened with Naira Marley, and he said, oh, he's going to complain, he's going to come out with his fans, and you know he has a cult following. What happened? The police came to him and started trying to negotiate how they would calm him down. And what happened? After a few days, he said he's not coming out anymore. 2 people got angry that, why are you calming down? That we thought we were going to speak up against police brutality. I think that was one of the P-Square duo. And then Fouls. And they were like, oh, are you going to come out and join us? And Two-Face was like, oh, no, I'm not coming out. My family, my this. People didn't expect much. But one thing led to the other. And before we knew it, there was a massive following of Nigerian youths, unprecedented, on one common cause. Now that is the difference with how we play our politics. People like to say that the NSARS people were sponsored. No, we all know that's not true. It took collective effort from different people to be able to...
Collective pain points.
Yes. So are we angry enough with what we have seen to be able to say we're not going to take this anymore? Are Nigerians, because the second level after the party primaries is when the election happens. I hope apathy, voter apathy, is not going to affect this elections. But if we go by the track records, a lot of people are tired. A lot of people are saying, "Oh,
same old.
Same old. They've rigged the elections already. They're going to do it." No, you can, and this is what we need to break. We need them to understand that collect the money. A lot of money is going to move. It's truly your money at the end of the day. Some say, all the money that came from River State, that was all the unpaid gratuities, all the unpaid pensions, and teacher staff salaries. So I expect the River State people, because I can't carry their matter on their head more than them, to begin to ask questions. And the problem is, when you keep collecting this money, then you are no longer able to hold those same leaders accountable. And as long as they keep inducing you, for someone who spends upwards of how much now, call those figures, from 100 million, that was a party ticket, up until those who have earmarked about 10 to 50 billion for an election. What do you think will happen when they win? It's obvious that they will recoup their funds.
Absolutely. Let's take our comments. So we're having so much fun. I forgot that time is not on our side. Now, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think the just concluded party primaries is just politics. The South has been shouting that power should be handed over to them, but seeing what played out, the South did not even vote for their aspirants. The primaries went well, few being strategic, while others ignored the basic. Most Nigerians are yet to know and understand how politics is played here. While most of us are in the comfort of our homes complaining, the delegates stayed under the sun, the rain, attended meetings from ward level. Hope the masses will get PVCs and come out to vote on election day. This one is, because voting on election day is already even too late. Thank you so much and stay blessed. Thank you, BC. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying ways. When you want to analyze the just concluded party primaries, you look at it very deeply. What is this idea of distributing and sharing dollars inside Ghana must go bags? Is it not to create distraction? Atiku should follow due process and stop deceiving people with his gifts. My own take on this matter is that Nigerians should take whatever money that is given to them and vote wisely and follow their hearts, because that money given to them is their right and inheritance. I think both of you are on the same WhatsApp group. Is that Sister Elsie? Nice having you back. Saying that I missed you is an understatement. Still looking beautiful as ever. Daniel Ilo, who is regular fan.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Money, you comment quickly.
Good evening, all. I weep so much for Nigeria and really wish I could do anything about it. It's such a dirty system, and I'm yet to see any credible aspirant as it is. God, please help Nigeria. Chisom.
So this is the fear a lot of people have, because if we start to hear that Atiku is the PDP candidate, you know, and we don't know what's going to happen with the APC, we really need that thought force. And we are hoping that Labour Party, like you rightly said, can consolidate, come together with other parties. But even after the primaries, is it possible to still merge all the parties to say, okay, let us now come together for the general elections?
Especially the not too young to run. What do you think about that?
Well, at the end of the day, all the parties will have to submit those who they have vying on their ballots, right? And if you don't, that space will be empty. However, I keep saying this, APC and PDP are just 2 out of 40. 2 out of 40. You have other parties on the ballot that day. I remember the last election. Most people, when they got there, they didn't even know the names of those people. They just looked for what was recalled to them, which is why visibility is key. Thirdly, how do I say this? You know what is right for you. Even however you vote, you don't always have to vote for the president, because what happens is that after the presidential election, everybody goes to sleep.
Yeah.
You see less crowd out on the gubernatorial day when you're voting for your the governor and your National Assembly. And those 2 elections are actually the most important, because you may never see, let's say in this case, you may never see Buhari.
But
you may never even see a
never
minister.
speak to
Yes, but you see your governor. you will see you should be seeing your state assembly members.
Absolutely.
If not that Nigerians have allowed them to sleep. So this is where we need to understand, this is how this is played. And if you cannot do more than voting that day, please make enough noise to hold your elected state assembly member, your elected governor accountable.
Absolutely.
They are not your masters. They are your servants. They are meant to respond to you when you ask questions. But that's not how we play here.
On that note, Devoe, we are going to bring you back. Don't worry. We don't have time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Devoe. At short notice, you always answer us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Elsie. Now, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media, like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed today's quote, here it is again. I really love this quote. Some men change their parties for the sake of their principles. Others, their principle for the sake of their parties. This was very interesting. We see it play out all the time. We'll see you guys live tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.